Marty Schupak and the Youth Sports Club present Soccer Shooting Drills. Soccer is a team sport, combining individual skills with teamwork. Soccer Shooting Drills demonstrates for coaches and parents involved in soccer some of the most creative and beneficial shooting drills in the game. Whether you're a beginning or experienced coach or parent, the shooting drills in this video are appropriate for all levels of play. Coaches are encouraged to change any of these drills and to create their own drills to make practices stimulating and fun for their team. Remember, the best practice drills for your team are the ones that work best and are fun for the players. As always, Marty Schupak and the Youth Sports Club emphasize improve as individuals, improve as a team, and above all, have fun. Straight on. This is a great warm-up drill to begin any soccer practice. The first player in line passes his or her ball to the server, who then lays the ball back off for the player to shoot toward an empty net. This drill emphasizes shooting fundamentals, such as staying square to the ball when preparing to make the shot, kicking the ball with the laces instead of the toes, and landing on the foot you kick with during the follow-through. Servers can at first lay off the ball only on the side of the shooter's stronger foot. This drill is also a good way for the shooters to practice kicking a ball that's moving away from them. Straight on can be performed with an empty net or with a goalie. Straight on with server. This is a progression of the previous drill. In this drill, however, players will practice shooting a passed ball that's moving toward them. The same shooting fundamentals should be stressed. Shooters should have their non-kicking foot planted on the side of the ball and pointed at the intended target when preparing to shoot. In a balanced position, the player's shooting leg should be bent all the way back, so that the heel of their foot is almost touching their back. With all of their weight and momentum swinging forward, the shooters square themselves to the ball, kick the ball with the laces, and follow through by landing on the kicking foot. In this drill, shooters shouldn't just be kicking blindly toward the net. Instead, they should pick their spots, such as the corners of the net, which, in game situations, are the toughest places for opposing goalies to defend. To make this exercise more challenging for the participants, coaches can design a limit to the number of touches the player can take before shooting. Straight on with chips. In games, the ball is not always placed on a tee for the shooters. Very rarely will a ball roll smoothly right to the kicker's foot. In this drill, coaches simulate all of the different ways a ball can bounce. Players must be comfortable with handling a ball out of the air. In this drill, participants can have the choice of either kicking the ball right out of the air or securing it to the ground with the body before shooting. When securing the ball to the ground, players can trap the ball with the chest or knee and allow the ball to fall just in front of their feet for an easy shot. In game situations, if shooters are free from defenders, they can let the ball roll a little farther away from their feet after trapping the ball so that they can build momentum when reapproaching the ball for the shot. Toss overhead. Toss overhead is very similar to the three previous straight-on drills, but in this drill, a coach stands behind his or her players and, on the go command, tosses a ball over their heads for them to run after and shoot. This gives the shooters a different look at the ball. In games, the ball will not always come easily from in front of them. Many times the ball will blindly come from behind. Players may be uncomfortable with this situation at first, but by practicing anticipating the ball coming from any direction, the team will have better opportunities to score. Rapid fire. It isn't common for position players to strike a stationary ball unless it's a penalty kick. However, this rapid fire drill allows players to get a lot of repetitions in during a short period of time. coaches can have players alternate kicking with the strong foot and the weak foot. Eventually, all players must be comfortable kicking with both feet if they want to be effective scorers. Coaches can also yell out a specific part of the net to aim for before each ball is struck. Rapid fire with movement. This is a progression of the previous drill. Before the player shoots each ball, he or she must run back and touch a cone. Putting the runner in motion adds conditioning to the drill. And in games, players are more likely to strike a ball while moving toward it and with little time to properly and comfortably set themselves to the ball. A great variation of this drill is to have coaches roll a ball in front of the net as the player runs to touch the cone. When the player turns back around, he or she must locate the ball quickly and react accordingly. Position players must remember to always be balanced when striking the ball. Rapid fire with volleys. This is another great shooting drill that allows for a lot of repetitions in a short period of time. But instead of rapid fire on stationary balls, players kick a number of tossed balls from either a teammate or coach. More experienced players can kick the ball right out of the air, whereas beginning players can volley the ball after one bounce. Rapid fire with volleys simulates all of the different ways a ball can be struck in a game. Four corners. In this drill, players form 4 lines. 2 lines, one each by the 2 goal posts, with balls, face 2 other lines, without balls, 20 to 30 yards out. The players in the lines by the goal post pass their balls, one at a time, to the first players in the line diagonal to them. On the cross, they charge the ball and take a shot on an empty net. After the first players in line perform this drill, they all rotate counterclockwise to the next line. All players must know where to rotate before going to the end of the passing line. 4 corners not only increases repetitions, it also involves the whole team at the same time. Shooters should also aim for certain parts of the net to simulate more realistic game situations. Coaches should also keep extra balls handy because in this drill, balls often go wild. 4 corners with volleys. This is a variation of the previous drill with the same basic 4 corners setup. However, in this drill, like in all of the other volley drills already illustrated, the participants must be comfortable with handling balls right out of the air and while on the move. In game situations, offensive players can save a lot of time and avoid oncoming defenders if they can volley a ball out of the air. To make this drill easier for beginning players, coaches can have the 2 shooting lines move closer to the net so that they're approximately 6 yards away from the other 2 lines. Confining the practice space will ensure a better success rate for the drill while also boosting the player's confidence. 3-tier shooting. In this drill, each player will have a chance to strike 3 different types of balls. A ball moving away from the body, a ball moving toward the body, and a ball out of the air. The shooter begins the drill at the 18-yard line. After the initial shot, the first passer kicks the ball to the shooter. The shooter kicks the pass ball to the net. The second passer then passes his ball to the shooter in the air, who then heads the ball toward the net. Everyone then rotates counterclockwise. In games, players must be able to react quickly to different types of balls, whether they're hard, bouncy grounders, low-line drives, or descending high flies. This drill also familiarizes the shooters with having to decide at the last second whether it would be better to kick the ball off the ground, or volley, or head it out of the air. In games, these decisions should be instinctive. Coaches can also put a goalie in the net to force the shooters to pick their spots and to not shoot aimlessly. Collect and shoot. Sometimes shooters will not have all the time in the world to line up their shot and pick their target. In games, shooters will have to deal with defenders, as well as their own teammates, shielding their view from a clear sight of the net. Not to mention, a lot of times, shooters will not always be facing the net when they get a pass. Players must therefore be prepared to get off shots without having any time to set up. The collect and shoot drill conditions the players to get shots off quickly and with little sight of the target. In this drill, shooters begin with their backs to the net. They accept a pass, lay the ball off backwards toward the net, turn around, pick up the target quickly, and take a shot. Players must instinctively know where they are, where their teammates are, and where their opponents are at all times. If so, they will always be comfortable with having to shoot with their back to the target because they'll know what's behind them. Trap and shoot. This is a progression of the previous collect and shoot drill. It's always a good idea to follow up a normal shooting drill with its volley counterpart, because it reminds shooters that there are always more than one way to strike a ball. In this drill, a shooter stands with his or her back to the goal in the middle of the goal area. The rest of the team, all holding balls, forms a semicircle around the shooter. One at a time, each passer around the semicircle will toss a ball to the shooter. The shooter must catch the ball with the body and trap the ball to the ground as he or she turns toward the goal. And without having a lot of time to set up the shot, the shooter kicks the ball into the net. Shooters can rotate with the passers after each round. Accuracy game. This is a fun and challenging drill that players of all ages can do. Two players stand across from one another. A goal, made with cones and 2 yards wide, stands in between them. The two players must pass the ball back and forth to one another. Each pass must go through the small goal area. Every time a passer successfully kicks the ball through the cones, he or she must take a step back. The passes will get tougher the farther back the two participants have to step back. This drill is a great way to emphasize the importance of hitting one's target when making a shot. If one of the players misses the target, the other player wins the game. Coaches should try to turn as many drills as they can into competitive games, because not only do players enjoy them more, they'll also exhibit more effort if there's a possibility of winning. Three-man weave. The three-man weave is a drill that many high school and college teams perform during warm-ups before a game, because it contains many benefits and emphasizes certain key points to finishing an offensive attack. In this drill, 3 players stand in a line 5 to 8 yards apart from one another. The player in the middle starts with the ball and passes it to either one of his or her teammates. The original passer follows his or her pass and overlaps the teammate with the ball, becoming a wing. The 3 teammates will weave their way toward the goal, passing to one another and overlapping along the way. Whoever receives the ball at the box shoots the ball. This drill works on conditioning, communicating with teammates, passing techniques such as leading your teammates, and shooting fundamentals. Players in this drill will learn to handle kicking different types of passes while on the run. Passive defender. This drill combines the layoff fundamentals of the collect and shoot drill, which was illustrated earlier, with the game-like situations of having to break free from a defender. A coach stands at the 18-yard line and will act as a passive defender. In other words, the coach doesn't try to steal the ball from the shooters, but instead is just in the way, forcing them to lay the ball off to their side and slightly backwards, toward the net and away from the defender for the shot. Shooters must never make their first move forward, because it will then give an opponent more time to defend against a shot on goal. Breakaway. Soccer youths love practicing breakaways just as much as baseball youths love playing home run derby. And in youth soccer, breakaways occur in a lot of games. A coach begins the drill by tossing a ball over 2 players' heads. The 2 players fight for control of the ball. If one of the players gains control of the ball, then he or she becomes the offensive player, while the other player becomes the defender. The defender, no longer passive, as was the case in the previous drill, has to prevent the offensive player from getting a breakaway and shooting the ball in the net. If the defender steals the ball, then the two players switch roles. This drill doesn't end until one of the players scores. 1v1. One offensive player against one defensive player is also very common in games. In the previous drill, shooters practiced their breakaways while being chased down by defenders. The only player they had left to beat was the goalie. In this drill, on the other hand, shooters have one last defender to break away from before being able to shoot on an empty net. Players love to practice this drill because they get to show off their offensive moves while trying to juke out their opponents. Coaches should continue to emphasize shooting fundamentals. This particular breakaway drill is a great game that emphasizes the importance of reorienting oneself to the ball, stealing, tackling, and shielding defenders, securing bouncing balls, dribbling, offensive moves, and shooting fundamentals. It's therefore a great drill for imitating game-like situations. If a player is one step quicker to the ball than their opponents, then it will be easier for them to get a good shot off. Crosses. One of the most successful scoring plays in soccer is the cross. A cross is when a wing player dribbles down the side of the field toward the corner and kicks the ball into the middle of the field where his or her centers should be ready to make a shot on net. All of the shooting fundamentals discussed in the previous drills culminate here. Shooters will have to read the ball off the passer's foot, free themselves from possible defenders, trap the ball or volley it right out of the air, and shoot with little or no time to aim or set up. During crosses, shooters must also know where they are in relation to the net and their defenders at all times. Therefore, they should know what to do with the ball once they get it. For beginning players, coaches can confine the practice area. Coaches can also place a defender and a goalie in the drill to defend against the cross. Musical soccer balls. This fun drill, which is based on the popular game musical chairs, is good for players of all ages. Players trot around a number of balls in the goal area. If there are 6 players, then there are 5 balls. A coach can tell the players to jump or touch the ground as they continue to circle the balls. On the go command, the players will find a ball and shoot them into the net. Because there is one less ball than there are players, one person will be left with no balls to shoot. That player loses and will sit out.
Get it in, it's still in.
One ball is taken away for each round of the game. The drill continues until there are only 2 players and 1 ball left. And the last player left standing, the one who was able to score in every round, wins the game. World Cup. This is a variation of the previous game. A coach crosses a ball to the center where the entire team stands in front of a guarded net and waits to win the ball and score. The player who puts the ball into the net wins the round and gets to sit out. The game is repeated until there is only 1 player left. Coaches can also decide to have older kids shoot with the opposite foot. This is a great game to end a practice. Shoot against time.
10, 9, 8, 7.
Shoot against time is another fun game, especially for younger players. In this drill, a shooter has 10 seconds to put a predetermined number of balls into the net. While racing against time, shooters must keep in mind all of the shooting fundamentals, such as staying balanced, kicking with the laces, and landing with the kicking foot on the follow-through. Shooters can compete against their own previous scores or against the scores of other teammates. Coaches should remember that young players love games that are competitive.
4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
Shake and bake. This drill is similar to the 1v1 drill in that an offensive player has to break free from a defender and beat him or her to the net for a shot. The drill begins with two opponents facing one another and separated by two cones. The defender cannot cross the cones when defending. The defender tries to prevent the offensive player from crossing the cones. As the defender shadows the moves of the offensive player tries to juke the defender and dribble toward the net for a shot. So much of successful soccer shooting is avoiding defenders, and this is a good drill for practicing that. Wall pass. In this drill, 3 passers stand 8 to 10 yards apart from one another and are adjacent to the goal on the side of the field. The first shooter in line passes the ball to each passer as he or she dribbles down the field toward the net. Passers, who together act like a wall, must lead the shooter with their pass so that they don't break his or her momentum while running toward the goal. After the third passer returns the ball to the shooter then kicks the ball into the net. In games, players must understand that when they pass the ball to a teammate, the play isn't over for them. Players should always anticipate the ball back. Combining or setting up a shot with multiple passes to the same teammates is a good way to keep opponents off balance. Overlap. Player overlapping is another great offensive move that often leads to successful shots on goal. In games, a defense can be caught off guard if two teammates suddenly switch positions with one another, especially when in a man-to-man coverage. Overlapping can occur between fullbacks and halfbacks, or wings, where a fullback takes the ball up the wing, which would be the halfback or wing's position, as the halfback drops back to the fullback position. Overlapping can also occur between two centers or between any other two offensive players who may be near one another during play. Even though this drill illustrates the simplest and most preliminary overlap, it's a good way for players to get used to passing, dribbling, and shooting all at the same time. Takeover. This is a progression of the previous drill and is a more accurate example of how the overlap works in games. In this particular drill, the player with the ball dumps the ball off to his or her teammate during the overlap. Now the drill is much like the cross drill. The player with the ball dribbles down the wing as the player without the ball heads toward the net. The wing crosses the ball to the center, and the center puts the ball in the net. It cannot be overstressed how practicing playmaking can lead to successful shots on goal. The overlap, the takeover, combining, and the cross are just 4 of many offensive plays that can lead to goal scoring. 4 goals. This is a great drill to do at the end of practice, especially for players who want to get more shooting reps in during a short period of time. A player stands in the middle of 4 goals. If the coach doesn't have access to 4 goals, then cones or flags can be used instead. The coach dumps the ball into the middle of the 4 goals for the shooter to collect and shoot. The shooter can shoot at any of the 4 goals. To make this drill more difficult, coaches can have the shooter kick with only their weak foot. Coaches can also yell out a specific goal for the shooters to aim at. Therefore, the shooters must stay on their toes and be ready to shoot at any of the 4 nets. In games, players must be able to get off shots in any situation, especially when least expected. Slalom. This is another fun drill that emphasizes dribbling to take a shot on net. Coaches erect an obstacle course for players to dribble through. When dribbling, players must keep their heads up because in games, they must always be aware of their surroundings. After completing the obstacle course, each player will take a shot on goal, keeping in mind all of the shooting fundamentals already discussed in the video. Name game. In this drill, the coach splits the team in two: an offensive group and a defensive group. A player from the offensive group calls out the name of a player in the defensive group and then takes off for the goal. The defender whose name was called tries to stop the shooter from scoring. This is another fun game that allows players to show off their offensive moves. After everyone's name is called, the two groups can switch sides. Home Run Derby. This fun game puts players' accuracy to the test. In this drill, players have to kick the ball in either corner of the net. If they do, then they get to move back and try their accuracy from a further distance. If the participants kick the ball in the center of the two flags, or if they miss the net completely, then they sit out.
If you miss, you got to step off.
By forcing players to aim for the corners, which are the hardest places for goalies to protect, this drill stresses the importance of keeping the ball out of the goalie's reach. The last player standing, the one to have made all of his or her shots, wins the drill. Face-off. Face-off is a great one-on-one shooting game. A coach rolls a ball into the middle of the field, where two players converge on the ball for its possession. Both players try to score on the other's net. A great way for offensive players to protect the ball from being stolen is to shield the ball from defenders with their body. When shielding, players should turn their body into their defender so that they're in between the defender and the ball. Face-off can be a great competitive game to begin or end any practice. It's also a good conditioning drill because players will be running up and down the whole length of the field. Layoff. Here's another great drill that takes advantage of the entire field. A player stands by each net. One player passes the ball across the field to the other player, who then traps the ball and immediately lays it back off for the original passer to shoot into an empty net. For younger players, coaches can move the goals closer to each other. There's a lot of running involved in this drill. Coaches should therefore pace the participants. A great variation of this drill is to have the player who lays the ball off defend against the shot. Shooting relay. This is a great half-field game that emphasizes shooting under pressure. In this drill, there are two teams. Each team is divided in half. Half of each team's players stand at the goal post of one goal, and the other half stands opposite their teammates by the other goal. Each player has a ball. On the go command, the first player for each team shoots their ball into the farthest net. Once their balls go into the net, the first teammates in line on the opposite side of the field shoot their balls into the farthest net. The first team to score all of their balls, or the team that scores the most goals, wins the relay race. Coaches can also assign only one ball for each team so that teammates are forced to use the same ball. Target shooting. This is an extremely fun yet challenging drill. Coaches place cones at the corners of the net. Shooters try to knock down the cones with their shot. This drill forces the shooters to aim for the corners of the net. Because it's harder to knock down the cones attached to the top corners of the net, coaches can award more points to those who can knock those down. Heading. Now you're going to use your head. Heading cannot be overlooked as an important method for scoring goals. Sometimes heading is the only shooting option, especially when there is no time to volley or trap the ball out of the air due to the pressure of oncoming defenders. When heading the ball, shooters can either head the ball while remaining on the ground or head the ball while jumping, depending on the pressure of the situation. Either way, the same heading fundamentals apply. Shooters must read the flight of the ball, cock their head back, and then kiss the ball with their forehead, by their bangs. Shooters must also remember to follow through the ball with their head to ensure optimal accuracy and velocity. Form shooting. Let's review the basic elements of successful shooting. Proper fundamentals begin and end with balance. If a shooter is not balanced when striking the ball, velocity and accuracy will suffer. To be properly balanced, the shooter's non-kicking foot must be planted by the side of the ball and pointed toward the intended target. The shooter's body weight should also be directly over the ball. A common mistake in shooting is to lean back when kicking the ball. If the shooter's body weight is behind the ball, then he or she will not end up in a balanced position because all of his or her momentum will carry the body away from the ball when it's kicked. Shooters should try to bend their shooting leg as far back as they can prior to striking the ball. The farther back the leg extends, the more potential energy will be stored for when the ball is struck, which yields a much more powerful shot. The shooter's head should be down and the eyes fixed on the ball. The shooter strikes the ball with the inside laces, not the toes, and follows through by landing on the kicking foot. In addition to the shooting techniques discussed throughout this video, here are 10 essential shooting tips that soccer players should always remember. 1. Approach the ball from a slight angle, not a straight line. 2. Your approach steps should be short and quick. 3. Take a quick peek at the net before focusing directly on the ball. 4. Keep your head steady when shooting. 5. Keep your shoulders and hips square to the target. 6. Hit the ball with the laces of the shoe. 7. When following through on the shot, land on your kicking foot so your weight is going forward. 8. Keep shots low. They're harder to defend against than high shots. 9. Aim for the far corners of the goal. 10. Follow up all shots and look for the rebound. Soccer shooting is one of the most exciting aspects of youth soccer. Players, from the youth level up through high school, love all types of challenging soccer shooting drills. Developing individual as well as team shooting skills begins with the quality of drills that are practiced. In soccer shooting drills, having fun is emphasized just as much as acquiring skills, whether these shooting drills are practiced on the soccer field or in your own backyard. Now, let's all take out our soccer balls and shoot that ball.